People that really feel lost or maybe feel like they're far away from their purpose might not necessarily be.
Exactly. I feel personally in my life, at one point, I was like, "Ooh, far away." At least that was my experience of it. But on the other hand, when I look at my chart, I'm like, "I planned it this way."
Have you ever wondered whether life is unfolding exactly as it should, or whether your thoughts, beliefs, and choices can actually change your path? In today's conversation, we explore the surprising relationship between healing, consciousness, fate, and free will, insights that may change the way you see your own life. Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life once again this week with medical intuitive and Dr. Elizabeth Echevarria. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Linda, for having me on your podcast.
I'm always excited to meet medical professionals who have opened up to more esoteric possibilities, more alternative possibilities. How did that happen for you, Elizabeth?
It was a exploration that began with my own awakening to the life that I was living, very superficial and not really truly connected with who I am. And once I had that realization and started digging into more about everything that lies beneath the surface, I started learning about astrology, anthroposophic medicine, which is based on teachings from Rudolf Steiner. And that really opened up the door to really being able to treat patients from a very holistic perspective. So, body, the etheric. So, body is not just the physical, but also the life processes of the body, and then the mental, emotional, as well as the spiritual.
How did the medical intuitive skills come online for you?
I was working with pendulums actually at the time as one of these esoteric things that I got into. I also started measuring vibrational energy of things from supplements or foods that I was eating to like other people's energy, animals, etc. And by practicing the skill, I began to also just be able to feel energies without the use of a pendulum. Yeah.
It's an intuitive skill. I think most people could tap into because we all have a body. Some people maybe are more hardwired for other ways of receiving information, but it's developable.
I completely agree. Yeah.
And I love that as a doctor, you're actually using this in your practice. So I'm curious when you work with people, I'm wondering about the consciousness aspect because we think of consciousness typically as this big, all encompassing field of energy. And then we have our own individual consciousness as well. So, how do these two merge to create our reality, whether that's health or whatever we're manifesting in our life?
From the way I understand it, because I have my perspective on it based on my lived experience and what I've learned. We have an individualized consciousness. And actually, that's what I understand makes humans so special is that we do have this awareness, individualized awareness that makes us feel separate from each other, even though we know that that's just an illusion. But that is part of the purpose of having a human life. And this vehicle that we're in, the body, I don't want to only call it a vehicle because I consider it a sacred part of who we are. The body is perfect in and of itself. the physical interacting with the life processes, which are consciousness coming in from the periphery, so to speak. It is part of that subtle energy, the morphogenetic field. We also, as beings, have developed this erectness, right? We're standing up, we're connected, heaven and earth. There's a sort of a beautiful picture of the human standing in the middle between heaven and earth, connecting through the heart space. There's still, of course, the greater source, all consciousness that we can tap into. But yeah, that's kind of the rubric that I see consciousness through, or that I understand consciousness through.
I guess I'm just curious which one you found has more weight when it comes to our health, our relationships, our sense of fulfillment, or our sense of purpose.
That would be a very, I think, nuanced answer depending on the person and the circumstances, because we all know about the subconscious that influences our thoughts and our behaviors. And that can be patterned from young life, right? From childhood, from society, and from whatever is coming in from past lives that's coming into that awareness, consciousness. We bring it with us. And so that is, of course, a strong influence on how it impacts our body, our relationships, how we think. But there's also the ability to open up to greater consciousness, to greater awareness. And that's the path that we're all on, right? Of awakening, of being in greater alignment with who we truly are. And who we truly are is one with all that is.
When you're working with people, how often do you find things like beliefs or suppressed emotions at the root of their physical issues?
Very often, I wouldn't say it's 100% of the time, because there are certainly aspects of illness that are coming with the code of the body, shall we say. They're genetic. And maybe at some level that genetic code can be altered, but generally speaking, I don't think we're all there yet. There are exceptions that I've heard about, but generally speaking, when I interact with patients in the hospital setting, I'm either looking at things that are genetically predetermined, but most of the time it's that other layer: lifestyle, emotional, thoughts, etc. Lifestyle, of course, is going to be dictated by how you think and feel about yourself and what you think is possible in the world, right? So depending on the population, so the older you are, the more likely that your bodily problems are going to be influenced by how you've been living your life, and therefore the thoughts and emotions. And the younger, then the more likely it's to be really genetically influenced.
And some things manifest as a soul experience, right? A soul lesson.
Definitely. And we can see that, for example, when I use medical astrology as well to inform the work that I do with clients. And I'm separating patients and clients because I do see patients in a clinical setting where I'm practicing Western medicine and holistic and integrative medicine. But then I also see clients separately. I do that online. And there we delve more into this type of medical astrology. What are the energetics behind the condition that you find yourself in right now? And I say energetics as a broad basket term, which will include the emotional energy that has not been processed, that's creating friction within the body, and thought patterns. So the medical astrology shows us if there is a signature in the chart that has already come in with the being at the time of birth, so that this was something that was sometimes very fatefully planned, sometimes just in there as a potential. So depending on how we play the game of life, it could happen, it could not happen. But certainly some things that are highly fated, you can read that in the chart. And when it's something that is so fated, it also alters the way you help the client understand the condition. Why? Like, why is it that they've chosen this as a soul experience? And to see it from a higher level, like it's not just about their experience and their learning in this lifetime, but also who is interacting with them. Is it strongly influencing their family, their children, or even doctors, right? Like maybe they're helping doctors make new discoveries or better understand how to treat certain conditions. In medicine now, we're very much into algorithms, right? Oh, you've got this diagnosis and you take this and this and that. And if that doesn't work, you do this other thing. Evidence-based medicine works great sometimes, not all of the time. It's very frustrating for people when they're told that they have to fit into this algorithm, right? And if you're coming in with an illness that you as a more aware individual decide, actually, I want to have more sovereignty over how my care is managed, and I don't want to fit into this algorithm, and you go and you're searching for different ways and you're open to different modalities of healing, then you can be the example when something that a doctor thought, oh, there's no way that's going to work. But voila, you've demonstrated otherwise. And that can be in many different ways. I've heard stories from using dietary changes or plant-based medicines to pure belief, meditation and belief, resulting in spontaneous cures.
So for some people, anything is possible. And for other people, it's just a path they're on, right?
Right.
I have a couple of questions, Elizabeth, about medical astrology. It's not a term that I've heard before. So I'm wondering, can it be predictive or direct you towards tendencies of what may manifest?
It can be predictive in that it can show you where weaknesses in your body could exist, right? This is an ancient method of medicine, over 1,000 years old, well over 1,000 years old. What I value from medical astrology is, I guess, because of my worldview, that there is a part of us that is coming down from the heavens, so to speak, our soul. Part of it is coming literally through the solar system, getting imprinted by all of the planets before landing into our body. The other part is coming through the inherited line. So that's the ancestral. And together they meet. And that's your life, that's your experience. So medical astrology is speaking to that part that's coming through the solar system onto Earth. And that's why also, because you have the ancestral part, you can't predict everything just based on astrology. You need to also understand the history of the client or the patient, the family history, and then try to put it all together.
How does intention and free will play into this? Like, how much can we move with our intention?
It's a question that I'm struggling with a lot lately because I feel that so much is already determined. I don't think it's all free will. In fact, you can even say that everything has already happened and we're just experiencing it. So the question is, has it already happened in innumerable timelines? And we're switching from one timeline to another based on our intention. I guess you can think about it that way. I don't think that there's one single way that we go from birth to death. I think that there are different pathways, but that there's nodes that are set. And those are the fate point. And you go, maybe you go far away and then you come back. Maybe you stay close to the line. And yeah, that's, I guess, the alignment piece. I feel personally in my life, at one point, I was like, ooh, far away. At least that was my experience of it, just because my life has changed so much. But on the other hand, when I look at my chart, I'm like, I planned it this way.
So, people that really feel lost or maybe feel like they're far away from their purpose might not necessarily be.
Exactly. I already had a sense when I was going into medical school that that wasn't going to be all of it. I looked already while I was in medical school. I was like, well, there's all this other alternative medicine. I looked into traditional Chinese medicine, into kinesiology, into a lot of different things. And I realized, okay, well, that's cool, but I'm just going to do medicine. I'm going to learn medicine. And maybe in the future, I get a chance to do some of this other stuff too. And then I went really deep into the mechanistic, reductionist approach to science and medicine. And through that came a point where I was like, "Yeah, this doesn't really explain everything. It doesn't work." I was trying to treat my patients that way. I'm like, it doesn't work. I have to use other methods. I have to listen to the mom's expression of like what's going on and really put that into. And my mind would be going like this, trying to figure it all out in the middle of a clinic appointment. I was like, how do I explain all this science stuff with all this real life stuff? It doesn't.
How wonderful that that feeling sense turned on for you so that you could actually hone into the whole energetic field of the person that you're treating, the relationships that they're having, and where the blockages can be. Is it primarily through feeling that you receive your insights?
I get sort of like clear cognizance, I guess. I just know things. I need to be able to just clear my mind and connect with the person's energy, and the questions then flow from there. It's
And once you get that insight, does it also give you information about how you can treat whatever's happening? Do you get suggestions or recommendations for treatment?
I actually just ask the question internally and I get the answer. Yeah. For a while, I would use my pendulum, like not in the clinical setting because I think that they would fire me, but online with clients, I would use the pendulum. And then I was like, all right, well, I would start to already have a sense of, okay, what the answer is going to be. And then I'm like questioning, well, am I influencing the pendulum because I already think I know the answer? Then I started using only the vibrational measures. Like, let's see how vibrationally it is. And after a while, I got a sense that, okay, what I'm getting intuitively as a hit right from the beginning is actually it, because it's matching vibrationally, it's matching with the mental dowsing, and it was working with the clients. So
What kind of results do you have for your clients? Any miracle stories you could share with us?
the most impressive experiences that I have had have actually been on I didn't mention this, but a channel as well. And so when information comes through that is so moving, or just energy comes through that is so moving that I feel it, the client feels it, and we're either both in tears or there's been a huge shift. I don't promise anything. I don't promise like, oh, I'm going to get rid of your cancer or anything like this, because I really believe actually that the healing is something that we do ourselves. And so what I try to do is gently lead, like, where are the blocks to you reaching your healing rather than me trying to impose something on them. Because, and then this goes back to karma, right? Like, karma, not in a negative sense, but karma, like, karma is why we're here on earth. Karma, like, as in, these are our soul mission, what we came to do in this lifetime. And if we came to learn through disease and we have other contracts with family members, etc., and I go in and force, like, well, I want to show you that I can heal you with this energy transfer. That's like very ego on me, right?
I am in complete agreement with you, Elizabeth. I don't think the healer does the healing, maybe opens up the energetic pathways that allows the body to heal itself once it has what it needs or comes into energetic balance. Yeah, beautiful. And you not only focus on healing, but you also channel, which is very unusual for a doctor. Would you be open to bringing a message through for all of our listeners today?
Yeah, sure. So just take a moment to connect and we would like to express our great gratitude for an opportunity to connect here now with you all listening. This moment of listening, of opening to information, to possibilities that are not in part of the usual thought stream, that are not always available to your thinking. This is an opportunity to expand and connect with others in ways that allow for a broader expansion and opening to the human potential that you have, that we all have. As you experience this energy, this connection, feel that there is more openness and elevation possible for you in your life. That what was once thought to be a limit no longer is. That when you release the limiting belief pattern and allow for that which can be, more of that which can be will be in your life. When you open to that possibility, when you bring it in as a thought form, now it can become manifest in your life. And this is now truly possible for all on earth at this time. There is no restriction. Believe that it can be, so that it will be.
Beautiful, beautiful message. Thank you. Do you know who you are channeling? Do you have a name for them?
That was from my team in spirit. Sometimes I'll call in the energy of Mary Magdalene. I've worked a lot with that energy. And actually, it's mostly nonverbal. Very powerful, loving, healing energy, very high vibration. I've also connected with Arcturians a lot, and the information sometimes comes in coded form in a in an odd way.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm curious if there are any recommendations that you would have for people, whether they're dealing with illness or not, whether they just want to create a better life. How can they step into that potential?
I think that it's a practice. It's a practice that you have to be on top of every day, to be aware of your thoughts, to be aware of how you're speaking to yourself and how what you're seeing projected in other people and what you're watching on media, social media, TV, etc., is a reflection of how your thoughts are filtering things, right? Because you're going to pick things and the algorithm is going to show you things that you've already searched for and clicked on, etc. And if you're seeing a lot of things that are negative, limiting, then clear your history, go to the meditation bench, and start looking at how are you talking to yourself and how are you thinking? And it's just an everyday practice, because some days, you'll have days where you feel really open and wonderful and everything is great. And there will be other days where it's just too much and you're just like, and it's okay. We're human. We're here to have a human experience. When you remember to clear those thoughts, then just go ahead and clear them, to erase, delete, etc.
Wise words, Elizabeth. I'd also add that when you do go see a healer or a medical intuitive, more often than not, it's not like, poof, your issue is resolved. Your energy may be shifted in that moment, but you have the responsibility of holding that vibration and not going back into those same old patterns, whether that's thoughts or habits.
You need to do the practice yourself. And so that every time that you meet with someone who's guiding you or helping you, you're not starting from zero every time, right? Because it's a waste of your time and it's a waste of their time too.
The bottom line is that we're all responsible for our own journey. Elizabeth, any last words of wisdom that you would like to leave us with?
Enjoy life. Honestly, we're not living in the easiest of times, so make an effort to find the beauty or joy in even the smallest thing at least once in your day, every day, because that really helps bring up your spirits, helps you come back to your heart space. And when you're here, then other people will tune into their own heart space as well. And we can all relate in a higher, better way with each other.
Elizabeth, where can we send people who would like to know more about your work?
So I have a website. It's my name, elizabethhechavarria.com. It'll be in the link below. and and then I also have a podcast myself. It's Balanced Blissful Energies for YouTube.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for being my guest. It was really lovely to have you here this week. And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. If you enjoyed our conversations, remember to subscribe, share with a friend. Consider becoming a member for our growing library of members only content. Remember to come visit me at thoughtchange.com, and we will see you again next time. Bye for now.